I flew three different rocket ships, helped build two different space stations, did a couple spacewalks out alone in the universe, and commanded the International Space Station on my third space flight over 21 years as an astronaut. Um, Launch is wild and powerful and overwhelmingly violent and fortunately fairly brief, about 9 minutes from lying on the beach in Florida to being weightless in orbit. It's like the ultimate dragster ride. But a dragster over a rough road where you can't even focus on the instruments and just an oppressive amount of force on your body for minute after minute. But at the end of it, and it's the most dangerous event per second that I've ever done in my life, even being a test pilot. But at the end of it, you are suddenly, instantaneously weightless for then the entire time you're in orbit. And you ask what it's like. You remember on Star Trek where you could beam somebody somewhere. It's sort of like that, where you were in one place with one set of rules, and now in under 9 minutes, 8 minutes and 40 seconds, you are now transported to an entirely different environment where number one, you're weightless. So it's like you have a superpower. Now you can fly and effortlessly glide anywhere you want in any direction. And you're orbiting the world every 90 minutes. So you go across the US from LA to New York City in 9 minutes. So you see all of the US in the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee, and around the world 16 times a day. And and you're inside a little tiny ship that is keeping you alive. Um, so there's this tremendous sense of rareness and uniqueness and both responsibility and privilege of being there. And you're with a group of people that is supremely trained and qualified, having devoted most of their lives to being able to do this thing. So there's a tremendous feeling of shared possibility and building momentum of success, which is a rare and delightful way to go through life. Um, and you get to know the world like you've only imagined. And if you turn and look out towards the universe, normally because the world is right next to you glowing, it shrinks the pupils in your eyes, so you can't see anything. Just like in the daytime on Earth, you can't see the stars because the sun's too bright, and your eyes can't see both at once. But at nighttime, um, and when I was outside on a spacewalk, when I shut the lights off on the dark side of the world, then you can see all the stars that exist, at least to the limits of the human eye. And the Milky Way is a bright smear across the sky. And you we went through the world's aurora while I was outside spacewalking. So I've had the aurora pouring around my body and around the ship, and that is otherworldly existence and experience. And so all of those things make it wildly different than life on Earth, demanding and dangerous, and but at the same time spectacularly great and better than a little 9-year-old boy dreamed it would be. Well, the primary responsibility is human life. You have crew members up there with you that are counting on you with their lives. And in the nonfiction that I've written, but in the three fiction books I've written, the Apollo Murders series, I try and really portray the ship commanders in the way that I know what it's like. You have to be technically superb at everything. And that means understanding the ship itself and everything that could go wrong with the ship and what you're going to do about it. And then all of the things you need to do with that ship, whether it's rendezvous and docking or spacewalks or landing on the moon or re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Those are all really complex, dangerous, and technical. And you have to know enough about everything so that no matter what goes wrong, you can optimize your chances to keep everybody alive. And if you can keep everybody alive, then you want to try and keep the ship healthy. It's secondary. And so commanding the International Space Station, was one day when the station suddenly started spewing its main lifeblood out into space of liquid ammonia. And we had to do an emergency no notice spacewalk to save the world's space station. And that takes years and years of preparation so that you're ready at the right time to go do something dangerous and complex. And as the commander, you're very much aware of that. And also, you have to not only be in charge, but you have to be capable of doing everything also, whether it's using the robotic arm to pluck a spaceship out of the cosmos, or doing a spacewalk yourself, or repairing the computers when they start overwriting their hard drives. That happened, or whatever. So yeah, it's a deeply technical, and but then it's also psychosocial because you're trapped in a small place for months, and you don't know when you're coming home ever. It's been funny to watch all this misrepresentation of Sonny and Butch being stranded in space. It was completely wrong. They didn't believe what Sonny and Butch were telling them. Everybody wanted the drama and make fun of Boeing, but you never know when you're coming home as an astronaut. You might come home after 6 months, but there's all kinds of other factors at play. And the purpose of going is not to come back, you know. So it was just funny to see what the misperceptions are. And also, it's a life of service. You are up there risking your life on behalf of the other 8.2 billion people on Earth, as one of the very few human beings being out there. I wrote three nonfiction books. I wrote one, you mentioned, but basically how to lead a better life, called An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. And it's in 28 languages and all over the world. And Sam Houston State used it as their first year reader to build their curriculum around, and all kinds of things. So I thought that was the most important thing to write, is based on all these life experiences, what's useful to them for everybody. And then I did a book of imagery because I took 45,000 pictures over my three flights, and I wanted people to actually see the world. And then my third, I did a young person's book called The Darkest Dark, on how not to be afraid. But then my publisher thought I had learned enough by then to be able to write fiction. And I thought it'd be fun and interesting and challenging. And so I came up with a main protagonist, Kazimierz Zemeckis, who is a crazy, but he's a engineer, fighter pilot, test pilot, astronaut. But he's in a flying accident at Patuxent River, where I used to fly F-18s. And in a bird strike, he loses his left eye. So he's the perfect protagonist because he has all of the skills, but he can't do any of the main jobs. So there he's really portable for me. I can move him around to different stories. And the book series has just done great. It's been optioned for TV and movie, and it's in 15 languages, and it's set in the tumultuous time of the 60s, with the Cold War, with Vietnam ending, with Nixon and his criminality and the presidency coming apart, and with the rise in women's rights, and with huge social unrest and rioting, and the Weather Underground setting off 100 bombs in government buildings, and the rise of the Chinese space program. And so all of those things come together here in my third book now, Final Orbit. I think it's the best of the series. It's getting tremendous reviews. People have said master of the genre, and there has never been a better spaceship battle scene written in any book. Those are what other people are saying about the book, so I'm pretty
What happens in it? What are some of the highlights that you're most excited about that go on in it?
well. It is extremely tense. A story woven into real world events of what happened in the summer of 1975, and launches and three different spaceships, and re-entering an abandoned space station, Skylab, and then having a battle inside space station Skylab, and then huge geopolitical tensions and a lot of insight into what was actually happening then. And it becomes a pretty good actual reflection on what's going on today in space, with geopolitical tensions and old space stations, and the rise of China and the race to the moon, that to settle the moon now. So it's a alternative history thriller fiction, but it's also, I think, gives people a deep intuitive sense of what it's like to fly, and the tenseness of it and the pressure of it to live and work on board a spaceship, especially when things go wrong. I have the same main protagonists, but I like to put them into the real world and so that the reader can't tell what the difference is. And if you go to the back of my three novels, I actually put in a reader's guide so that you can pick out fact from fiction. And it's pretty stunning that, almost all the characters are real people and almost all the events actually happened. And I love it that it works out that way because I think then it becomes a much more compelling book.